All right, now over to Tom.
Thanks. We've been talking about winterizing your car over the last couple of weeks, and we've got right now with us the gentleman from Hudson, Cliff Hudson from Hudson's Repairs. And I tell you what, you guys are going to start getting really busy here pretty soon.
Actually, we're staying busy.
Okay.
Very fortunately, yeah.
Even more so, I should say.
Well, and more so, yeah.
Yes.
But, you know, for years, people always ask, is winterizing, is it fact or fiction? Well, if your car is properly serviced, for the most part, it's probably fiction. Because, you know, up in the severe climates, there's changes people have to make. Years ago, they had to actually go to a thinner engine oil, you know, because the oil would get so thick when temperatures drop. They would actually have to go to a more concentrated antifreeze protection. They'd actually have to take their summer tires off, believe it or not, and put their winter tires on.
Yeah.
We don't have any of that down here.
Yeah.
So long story short, if your car is being properly serviced, if you're getting all those services that the maintenance manual calls for, and some professionals under the hood on a regular basis, he or she is checking the antifreeze concentration and the freeze protection, and there's probably no reason to do anything.
And I think one of the things that you said that's most important, if you're going by what the dealer says you're supposed to be going, the manufacturer suggested, changing the oil every 4,000 to 5,000 miles, checking the tire pressure, rotating those tires as well. But tell us about the winterizing if someone needs to, say if someone came from out in Arizona or someplace where it doesn't get down below, 45, 50 degrees most of the time.
It's very simple.
And we do have some freezing days here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely we do. You can actually freeze a car in Charleston. I've seen it happen. It's very simple. You take a hydrometer and you check the freeze protection level of the antifreeze with a hydrometer. This is something a professional can do or should do for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you raise the hood of a lot of today's cars, you're wondering where it even is.
Yes.
Okay.
It can be hidden big time.
Absolutely. Secondly, if the engine is really hot, this system is very hot and it's under pressure, the fluid coming out can come out and scald you.
Yeah.
You got to be real careful.
Dangerous.
It's best done cold. Yeah. Something you don't want to just raise the hood and attempt yourself unless you know exactly what you're doing. But in the climate we have down here, we don't typically have to change our engine oils to get to a thinner oil. Our antifreeze protection is typically good at 50-50, meaning half antifreeze, half water. And that's real important because in the old days, the Hudson men had a tradition. The tradition was when the weather turned, we went out and we changed our antifreeze.
Okay.
Well, we did it every year. Foolish. Every antifreeze lasts 2 years. And we have antifreeze concentrations today that are very specific for the car and will actually last for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were actually, my dad and I were throwing away perfectly good antifreeze to pour in new antifreeze. And by the way, you shouldn't pour it in straight. It should always be mixed with water because straight antifreeze freezes at 6 degrees below zero.
Okay.
And antifreeze mixed with water at a 50-50 concentration doesn't freeze until like 30 below zero.
And if someone were to be doing that themselves, they have to be careful about how they dispose.
Right.
Okay.
Because back in the old days.
So it's best to have a professional to do it.
Back in the old days, it
Like
was
Hudson's.
nothing.
Yeah.
It was nothing to see a guy just pull his drain plug out and let it run all over the yard.
Yeah.
Vehicle batteries, when we have that first bitter cold day, vehicle batteries, weak batteries love to die. And this is a light. I'm going to try to get a close shot of this. I get phone calls about this a lot. People say, my daughter texted me this picture the other day. Someone in the car business texted me this picture the other day. He said, what does this mean?
That's in the car business?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, what does it look? I always ask, does it look like a horseshoe with an exclamation point in the middle? And they say, yes, it does. I say, okay, great. Do not throw horseshoes in your car.
True. True.
That's a low tire pressure warning light.
And sometimes that light can be, depending on where it might be on the dashboard too, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes it can identify a front tire or a back rear tire. Yeah.
Air expands and contracts with temperature, so you have a real bitter cold day and your tires are borderline on pressure anyway, you might crank up the car and see that light.
Big question for you now. Check the tires when they are hot or cold for tire pressure, correct tire pressure.
I always like to check them. I personally check mine when they're hot.
Okay.
Okay, because that's when I'm going to spend most of the time. But you don't always know when the customer comes in the car and the car's in the service bay, you don't always know how far they've driven. So the manufacturer gives us a cold recommendation. That's what you should stick to.
Cold and a hot recommendation in that direction. Winterizing the car, we're talking about changing the oil. We're talking about putting the antifreeze, the right antifreeze, the tire pressure, making sure you rotate the tire. On most cars, how often would you rotate the tires? Front to back on radial tires, correct?
You know, yeah, front to rear, and there's a lot. We don't like to rotate tires robotically. We think it should be done based on how the tire is wearing. Some people like every 5, some people like it every 10. And speaking of numbers, we're out of time.
We are, aren't we? I like that. Rotate them according to the wear. Cliff
According
Hudson,
to the wear and the
thank
need.
you so very much.
Good seeing you.
Great to have you here, my friend. Yes, sir. And I'm taking a look at the forecast in just a moment, so stay with us right after the break.